Welcome to another study of James. Today we're going to look at and explore a biographical thumb sketch of who James was. In particular, we're going to focus on a timeline that Earl Rademacher gives us where he talks about James in reference to the start of the period of time in Acts chapter 1 where James is seen with his mother around 30 AD. And then we're going to look at him at 44 AD when he's in leadership in Acts chapter 12. And then somewhere between Acts 12 and Acts 15, he writes the book of James. We'll take a look at that. And then when we get to Jerusalem Council, we're going to take a look at his leadership qualities. And one thing that you're going to see with the Jerusalem Council is none of that content is brought into the book of James. And had James been written shortly thereafter, it certainly would have included some of the things that they talked about in chapter 15 of Acts. And then we're going to look at him down the road in chapter 21 of Acts. And finally, we're going to look at his when he dies in 62 AD. So we're going to see in a thumbnail way a biography of James. And I hope that we share some things with you that maybe will help you in your study of the book of James get a clearer understanding of what's happening. So, first of all, we see James in Matthew, and here he is in Matthew. The context is clearly they're in Nazareth. The people have heard a sermon that Jesus preached in Nazareth, and they are evaluating, or they had evaluated that sermon, and they're kind of thinking, where did this come from, And so they look at what they know about Jesus, because he comes from that little town, and this is what we find. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Now, expected here is a negative answer, or a positive answer, but kind of a negative tone about it. This isn't a compliment on their part. Isn't his mother's name Mary? Aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, Judas? And aren't his brothers, aren't his sisters with us also? Okay, verse 56. So where did he get all this teaching? Where did he get this? And so they took offense at him. And Jesus said to them, well, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his house. So we see here they had seen the miracles, but they stayed in unbelief because they couldn't believe that this person could have said those things. And they were incredible. And yet he had no training as a rabbi, according to them. And he was brilliant. But according to them, where did he get it? He had, in their thinking, he had to get it from somebody. And he doesn't, And they compare him to his brothers, and they're going, well, we don't see that here. And, they're thinking about the humbleness of Mary and Joseph. And, to their minds, what he said and how he said it doesn't fit what they think they know about him. So they reject him, all right? That's what we see. Now we see the same kind of thing over here in Mark chapter 6, verse 3. Is this not the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? So they were offended. And, it brings up a lot of interesting things, of course. But when you look at the language here and take it right at the value that it's given, in the context that it's given, and that's awful important, we see here that he has brothers. They're named. And he also has sisters. So if you got sisters, you got at least two. Was there more? He came from a big family. And, he wasn't just this lonely child, this spoiled child, like we see in the modern era. He was a child from a big family. And in fact, he was the one that took over the business when Joseph died and helped care for the family up to the time when he started his ministry. And that takes us to the second born, James. Okay? And, what is James going to do? Is he going to assume the, leadership in that home and help that home? Well, we'll find out. So anyway, but that's what these verses are teaching. Kind of interesting. When you look at the Greek, and we're going to look at this in another study a little closer, they're brothers, they're sisters. The word there in the Greek is using that. And there could have been another word used if it was cousins. And we'll even talk maybe another time why these brothers and sisters aren't older than Jesus. The biggest objection to that would be that Jesus would not be heir to the throne of David. And of course, as Messiah, he would have to be that. Well, we see this unbelief in John chapter 7, verses 3 to 8. His brothers therefore said to him, "Depart from here and go to Judea, that your disciples may also see the work that you're doing." They saw the works that Jesus was doing, And for no one does anything in secret while he himself seeks to be known openly. If you do these things, show yourself to the world. Make it count, man. Do it big. And it says here in verse 5, where we want to get to here, for even his brothers did not believe in him. And of course, Jesus said, "My time has not come, but your time is always ready. The world can't hate you, but it hates me because I testify that its works are evil." And I still see that whenever you point out anything that might be a sin, automatically the person says you are judging. And they automatically hate you because, you pointed out a sin. And believe me, you may not even be talking particular to that person about a particular sin, but, there are many sins that are common to most of us, and people don't like it. So, Jesus said, "You go to the feast. I'm not yet going up to this feast, for my time has not fully come." His time will come, but it's not now. His time always referred to when he would go to the cross. As you look at that. All right, so we see here a growing picture. James was in unbelief during the ministry of Jesus Christ. All right, and he grew up with him. This brother was always different, than anybody else. And, he wasn't accepted. They saw the works, the miracles, but they couldn't agree with the words. All right. Now, something happens between John 7 and Acts 1:14. Take a look at Acts 1:14 for a moment. Okay. I'm going to go back one verse. And when they had entered, this is the room here in Jerusalem, into the upper room where they were staying, Peter and James and John, Andrew, Philip, Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas the son of James. These are the 11 disciples. Okay. And these all continued in one accord in prayer and supplication with the women and Mary the mother, okay, of Jesus, and with his brothers. So we see the brothers here in this upper room at Pentecost where all these things are going to happen. They're going to come on, all these people as believers, and these people are going to be testifying to the various nations about Christ and his resurrection. Something happened here. Now, I think that something that happened that's real big is found for us in 1 Corinthians 15, okay? And we have here in verse 5, I'm going to bounce up a little bit. Now, we know the gospel was presented here in Gospels in 3 and 4. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I received, that Christ died according to the Scriptures, and that he arose, okay, again, on the third day, according to the Scriptures, okay, and he was seen by Cephas, Peter, then by the 12, the disciples. And after that, over 500 people at one time, 500 brethren, so there could have been more. And the greater part remain to the present. So a lot of these people are still alive in the writing of 1 Corinthians, which is somewhat later. Okay, and but some of these people who saw Jesus at the resurrection, some of these people had already passed on. So there is a urgency for the Bible writers to get the record down in the Gospels as this generation is passing away. There's, importance to get the testimony of those who remain. So that's what you have Luke doing in chapter Luke. He looks for things that give an account, so he's going to be talking to Mary and other sources to put his gospel together, because he knows he's under pressure to get the gospel down by the eyewitnesses before they pass on. But they're clearly alive, most of them, at this point. And then verse 7, and after this he's seen by James, then by all the apostles. And last he was seen by me also, this is Paul, as one who was born out of time. So the Bible specifically records that he was seen by James. And when Jesus appeared to James in the resurrection, this is the second oldest brother in the family. When he appeared to James, at that point, yes, James has seen the works. He had heard the words, but now he saw the ultimate demonstration by God of the power of God to raise Jesus from the dead. And that proved to James that his brother was indeed who he said he was, and he believed. And he shows up in Acts 1:14 as a believer, no longer in unbelief. Okay,